Welcome to another episode of To the Sky. I'm your host, Franz, and with me is a long-time friend of mine back when we were still in high school, John Rata. And recently I found out that he's actually working on some pretty cool things, and I wanted to discuss it with him. But yeah, John, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hey, my name is John Rata. I'm an Auckland-based creative, and I work in a lot of different fields. I have toes and fingers in film, theatre, video photography, writing, lots of different things. And yeah, just a general. I work in a general creative field, and that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
From what John has mentioned, is what he does is already very exciting to me, and I was very keen to discuss it and divulge it
So it
further.
seems, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anything creative is always interesting to me, no matter what, and I always wanted to explore those, and I'm really thankful that you decided to come on.
No worries, man. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, my pleasure. Happy to be on.
John, I always like asking this everyone who comes on to the series is, are you always learning?
My answer to that question is yes. Yeah, I'm always learning. I think one of the most, if there's any big things about myself that I've sort of discovered within the past year or so, is that I love to learn. I'm curious about a lot of things. I can when I when I pick something that I am interested in and I decide that I want to learn more about it, it can be quite obsessive.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sometimes go through phases of, spending a week immersed in this certain world of this subject. And then once I feel like I have learned enough or, learned enough to know what I want to apply it into my life or so forth, or that I need to know, then I kind of move on to the next thing. Um,
That's great.
but yes, the short answer is yes. I learn every day. I read things. I listen to like podcasts and stuff. And I guess a natural part of having your hand in different creative endeavors kind of it forces you to learn things.
Yeah.
You always have to kind of continually. You're always continually having to evolve and identify where you can be better. So yeah, definitely always learning every day, and I don't think that will stop. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself as a generalist? Is that something that you think that
A
can describe you?
generalist. By generalist, is that sort of like a
I guess jack of all trades.
jack of all
Not
trades? Yeah, I was
necessarily
about to say.
specializing in just in like photography, but you have this
Yeah, I
broad
think
look into it.
to answer that question, in some ways I am, in some ways I'm not. If you sort of list everything on paper,
Mm.
it seems, that it's quite a big general sort of list, or there's a certain a range. There's certainly a range of things, but for me personally, I do have my own priorities within that list that
Right,
I
right.
treasure a bit more and that I give more attention to. Like for me, like writing is my main thing, and it's because of writing that got me into wanting to pursue film and things like that. And everything to do with photography and everything else came because of that initial interest.
Mm.
Um, and that's still my principal interest, writing. I try to write every day. I do write every day.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, so that one main interest has branched off into a lot of things, and it's made me a generalist in some way, but I do definitely still prioritize
Yep.
certain things above others. But it's
Yeah.
definitely forced me to, because everything is so related,
Mm.
it becomes easy to transition to different things,
Mm.
and at the same time, skills that you have in one thing you can kind of transpose that into the other thing because they all exist sort of within the same relative umbrella. Um, so yeah, in some ways, I'm a generalist. Yeah,
No, I really like your answer. A generalist with priorities, and I think that's actually
yeah,
a great way of putting into it. Because I think it's very awkward putting 50% into every single thing around you, right?
yeah.
That's why I like
That's right.
I
Yeah,
like the idea that you do have some main focus, and like you mentioned, it branches out and kind of touches on other things that leads back to your original objective. And I think that's a pretty
Yeah,
cool way of looking at it.
yeah, and adding on that, the cool thing is that the things that you do prioritize sometimes the things that are a bit more general, those other skills or fields or whatever, can help with that main thing. It can all bounce back. Um, so yeah, I have found that being a generalist does have its sort of benefits. Instead of just sort of dipping your toes into like 100 things. They
Yeah.
can you because of all that different learning, you can enhance the skills that you already have possess. I guess you could say. But yeah.
For me, fortunately enough, I did a degree that kind of focused on this idea of generalist as well, like a generalist
Mm,
approach into things. Personally, I think it's great, partly due to the fact that when you get presented by a new problem that you didn't know how to handle before, you have this mindset of I'll go research it, I'll go do it myself. You
mm,
have this very can do or hands on approach of just trying to
mm,
tackle a problem as opposed to just complaining and giving up. I like this idea that you just push through it, even if it's something quite unfamiliar. So I totally get that mindset, which is pretty fantastic. And again, I guess from your day to day role, doing a lot of many creative things. I think it's a good approach into that kind of field. Um, so I guess I didn't want to get too far away from it. I'll ask some more formal questions a bit later. But do you work at a theater at the moment? Is that where you're working at?
so for me, it's typically at least three or more things at a time. I don't have one thing that's sort of like a full-time job. I have
I
like a mix
see.
of different things that ends up sort of taking my time. So a couple, if the question is sort of what are the things I'm doing now or
Mm.
like or work that I'm doing at this moment, um, I found a recent new job at this video company. So
Oh, congratulations.
um, yeah, yeah. The reason why is because I did have a previous job. I worked at this photo booth company. I helped manage it, and because of the lack of events due to COVID, everything had
Right.
to, you can't really hold big
Yeah.
events and things like that. So I had hours cut, and I had to find something new. So I found this job where I'm paid to write and help create stories and narratives. So it's
That's
definitely right up my
awesome.
alley,
Yeah,
and
that's great.
I've had a really enjoyable time with that company, and it's been great.
Wow,
So that's
that's
been really
awesome.
fun, and I'm happy about that. Um, so yeah, writing scripts for this company and helping with their storyboards. Basically, it's taking product and service ideas of clients that come to them. For example, I wrote a script for like an energy company and like a hydraulic hose company, and I'm
Wow,
doing it's always like it's like a varied type of thing. It's just anyone who really inquires, and then I take that product or I take that service and the problems or solutions that they address and things like that, and sort of turn that into like a marketable 1 minute 30 to 2 minute plus script.
of the company,
Um,
like the story of the company. Is that what you mean?
yeah, either the company or their service or their product that they're
Wow,
trying to sell, I guess you could say. So to put that into more detail, that's sort of what those scripts are about.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then there's a storyboarding process. So there's me and someone else, and we basically share a video call, much like this, and we
Right.
have this website where you can share, where you can live draw and live edit, and then we sort of discuss ideas based on the script of like, hey, I think on this line there would be sort of this shot and stuff like that. So that's been fun. With theatre, um, I am an in-house producer in a theatre company called Proudly Asian Theatre,
Wow.
which
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just
I
quite
love the
amazed of
reaction.
how many cool things that you've been working on.
No,
Sorry.
it's just it's no, it's fine. It's just yeah. So yes, I'm a in-house producer there. This year's had quite an effect on us,
Right.
but thankfully we've still managed to keep on going. We've moved to a lot of digital mediums,
Mm, mm.
to try and still express, what we do. So basically, Proudly Asian Theatre, to give a short general thing about the company. So they were founded in 2013, and they're an Asian-led theater company that focuses on, creating Asian stories, spreading Asian works, um, putting Asian faces and actors and local Asian talent in the spotlight, and helping develop
Mm.
everyone at a grassroots level.
Right.
So I'm an in-house producer there, and I've been mainly producing one of the programs that we have called Fresh Off the Page. So basically, it's a monthly. Well, it's not this year, but previously it was a monthly play reading of plays written by local Asian writers,
Wow.
and we basically hold that every month. So let's say last year, I think we held about 9 or 10 events. So that's monthly, and every event was a new different play by a local Asian writer, and each time we pulled in a new cast of actors and director, to sort of read the play to an audience, and we
Wow.
pretty much sold out every. It's a free event because it's funded,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
that's good. So
Yeah,
we don't charge people because it's a free event.
that's great.
Yeah. So and it's been awesome. We've sold out pretty much every show of that program that we had,
Congratulations, man. That's
at least
great
last year.
work.
So that's
Yeah,
been cool.
that's
Yeah, no
awesome.
worries. And yeah, you can check everything out at proudlyasiantheatre.com.
We'll
And I'm
definitely
also a
have it
photographer.
up. I'll chuck some links
Yeah,
and
yeah.
photos
And
up,
I'm a
and yeah.
photographer for the company as well. So I take a lot of the photos of the, some of the things that we
Yeah.
do. There's a second program that we had this year called Fresh Developments that I've sort of been in-house producing too. But there's a lot of side projects as well that we do with Pat.
Mm.
For example, we sometimes collaborate with this company called Pan Asian Screen Collective, which is like Proudly Asian Theatres for Theatre. Pan Asian Screen Collective is for like the Asian screen film space. And I recently helped facilitate like a panel for Mulan, where I didn't have any like direct engagement with any of the actors or anything like that, but it was pretty much most of the cast was sort of having this live panel about the
Mm.
experiences of the movie and the future of like Asian representation
Right.
in like Hollywood type of thing. So sometimes there's random different things like that, that I get to be involved
That's
with as a
awesome.
part of Pat. Outside of Pat, there's also my other photography and video stuff. So right now, in terms of video, I finished shooting and editing a video that I shot for this fabrics company called Interweave, and I'd
And
done
is
a
this
couple of stuff
just before you
for
go?
them
Is this
before.
freelancing or is this through your
Yeah, this is
company? Oh,
freelance
this
stuff,
is
so
freelancing.
nothing related to any
Okay.
higher company or
Right.
organization. Yeah, so I finished editing that, and I took headshots for an actor friend of mine recently, and I did some photos for one of Pat's shows that's planned for next year.
Mm.
So yeah, in terms of like work stuff and like stuff that like getting money from and things like
Mm.
that, that's probably like a general list. You asked that at a good time. There's some things going on, so that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's great to hear. I'm always, really really happy to hear when people are, working and doing things that they really love. And I
Yeah.
really I just was listening to how amazing your stories were, the fact that you got to interact with the Mulan cast, that's or sorry, facilitate this live streaming is great. But
Mm.
if correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Mulan filmed or partly filmed in New Zealand as well? Did you guys help
Yeah,
or
that's right. So I know some of the people who have been involved. Like a big bunch of it was filmed in Queenstown.
right? Of course, it's gonna be far
So
away.
there are some people who are involved in like the crew
Mm.
who are a part of sort of like the circle that I'm involved in. I know some of the actors that were in it, like the sort of the not any of the main cast,
Mm.
but a lot of the extras too were like soldiers. I
Right.
kind of knew some of them. Some of the more main cast are actually from New Zealand.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
yeah. So the girl who plays Mulan's sister in the movie is from New Zealand.
Wow.
She's from Auckland, and the guy who plays Mulan's sort of romantic
Mm.
interest in the film, he's also a local New Zealand actor. But yeah, all Asian. So there's some connection there,
Mm.
and like
But
I've
you
run into them as well,
but you didn't get to work on it
and we involve
directly.
them in some of our stuff. Sorry.
Did you get to work with the film directly in any capacity at all,
No,
or?
I didn't. No, I
Mm.
wasn't involved with the film in any capacity in that sense. I didn't
Mm.
work like as a part of the
That's
film.
okay.
My main connection was more so just like people that I knew as a part of it, and some of the facilitating that I did with Pan Asian Screen Collective and Proudly Asian Theatre to help market some of the actors and
Yeah.
the Asian representation
I
that
remember
was a part of that movie. Yeah,
I remember like 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago now, when I was still back at uni. I was seeing this ad that they needed Asian extras for.
that's the one.
So that was it. Like it was like,
Asian extras. Yeah,
honestly, it was a meme like in our class, like, oh, if you're Asian you should go do this. I thought it was like some Hong Kong or Asian film being shot here. I was not expecting it was Mulan. I
so
definitely was not hearing Mulan back then.
there, there
Yeah.
was two. There would have been two. One would have been Mulan that you might have
Hmm.
seen, and one was called Meg. The Meg.
Oh, the Meg,
If
was that
I'm
also shot here?
the shark movie. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was done here. They also had an extras
Wow.
call out because they shot some of that here. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Jason
I saw
Statham.
that one too. Yeah, I was like, should I go for this? I was like, nah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just an interesting time. I was not expecting it to be, something as big as Mulan. Honestly, Mulan was I loved that movie as a kid. I haven't had the chance to see it yet. I'm gonna go watch it soon. But yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. Just trying to see more movies like Mulan out there. Like you said, like that Asian representation, like us being both Filipino. I think it's a great way to push it out there. Honestly, I don't know if it will ever happen. Maybe a Filipino-led director would be fantastic. I think that'd be great. I don't know. Could be
Fingers
you.
crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just good and to see like film being directed by other people because I feel like specifically with Disney, right, like when they started going off with their MCU stuff, they're just grabbing, not gonna say quote unquote random directors, but relatively unknown, not A-lister directors, and I think that's a great chance. I mean, for your CV to say that you have, let's say, Black Panther, right? I mean, I think it's a fantastic
Yeah.
movie. So stuff to look forward to. That's great. I love the stuff that you're working with. If you don't mind me asking, what camera are you using? Are you using a Sony or a Canon?
Camera. My personal camera that I use to pretty much do pretty much all of my photo and video stuff. It's nothing too fancy, really. It's called the Sony A6500,
Wow.
and the
Okay, yeah.
key to it is mostly in the lenses.
Right,
It's
yeah.
a great camera. It's a great camera nonetheless. But I have these two lenses, like the Sigma 18 to 35,
Yeah.
1.8, and this other Sigma lens. And those are like pretty much my main two lenses
Of
that I
course.
go back and forth on. There are like better cameras that you can get, but so
course.
far for me at least, I've had no trouble. I've been fine enough using that camera and those lenses. So yeah, that's my camera. Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting because, like, I honestly wanted to get into photography. I've been recently Googling, like, photography, right? Everybody says full frame, full frame and nothing left.
Yeah,
And
yeah, full frame.
it's all-
I
so expensive.
would really.
I started looking at the
It's
prices.
fun-
It was
yeah.
nuts. It was nuts. I was.
It's funny because today I was thinking like, I want to like, should I? I mean, like, I do make money from this to some capacity, so there is some sense in investing in full frame.
Yep.
But it's like, I'm fine enough. I've already been having fine results with the A6500.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, is it really that? I was thinking about
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
today, so it's funny. But I think, yeah, it's definitely something that you think about. Like, should I go for this? And there's so many tech reviews as well.
Yeah.
There's
There's
so many
much.
different opinions online about what might be best and what might not be best for you. So yeah, sometimes it can be hard to make a decision. But
Just get a red. Just spend 35,000 and get a red.
yeah,
just get a red
yeah,
camera.
definitely. No, that's actually something that you could do.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it would probably save you some time and money because you know what decision would be the best for you. Like,
yeah.
ultimately, right?
No, I
So-
mean, I have no reason to use red. Like, I would. I mean, maybe one day.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think a proper studio. Like, I think it'd be nice even just to play around with it. Shoot, and I think it shoots up to 8K. I think even more. But
Oh, red. Is that what
Yeah,
you said?
yeah, red
Oh
cameras.
yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, yeah,
that's
just yeah, those.
some cameras are really expensive, like tens of thousands
Oh
or
yeah,
more
no,
of
it's.
dollars. Yeah,
I think you can even use
I
red
remember when
for
I first
film,
found
right?
that out. I was like, what?
Yeah, I think they use those for like actual film cameras,
Yeah,
right? Like that's why
yeah,
they're just absolutely expensive. Yeah.
yeah, totally. So expensive. Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to speak about a project that that you worked on recently that you're super proud of that you want to share?
I'm quite proud of most of what I've worked on. I guess recent.
Oh, doesn't
Can
have
I
to be
say something
recent.
that's
Yeah,
not as
yeah,
recent?
not as recent, just something that you're proud of.
I think one of the projects I did that I'm most proud of was something that I shot some years back, I think in 2017. Um, there was a lady that had multiple sclerosis and she had her own, she needed a video to help with like donations for her
Right.
sort of like give a little,
Mm.
one of those types of pages. So I found out about her and her need from that. At the time, I was working at Unitech, which is where I studied, and I was
Mm.
working there for a little while. And an email came in from her via like a colleague, and then
Mm.
so I decided that like I'll do it. And that video, once it was done, and she was a lovely lady, and her family was nice, and they were really welcoming when I did shoot it. And when it was all done, um, it was she really liked the video, and later on she said that ultimately it helped a lot in getting her some of the money that she needed to have the operation
Mm.
to extend her, I guess, her life, I guess, essentially.
Mm.
She had multiple sclerosis. It's an incurable disease.
Right.
There's no cure for it. I guess the only thing you can really do is extend, have operations to extend your lifetime.
Right.
Um, so it helped her in that way, and she told me that it helped a lot in getting her
Mm.
one of her operations. So I think, and even when I look back at it now, a few years onward, I'm still really proud of it. I think it is good, and I guess obviously I'm most proud of what the kind of impact and effect that it did have on this person's life. So I think I think always that will be one of the projects that I've done that I've been most proud of. I did it for free actually, but I think ultimately doesn't really matter, and I think it's still a great video, and it helped someone, and it helped someone's family at the end of the day, and it has led to more work as well. So
That's awesome.
she
Yeah.
works as a part of that fabric company, of which
Right.
whose video that I finished shooting recently.
Mm.
So
It all
there's
adds up.
always
Yeah.
more. There's always connections there. Something else I guess I'm also proud of is with Proudly Asian Theatre, the monthly programs that we had been running, the Fresh Off the Page programs, because of something like Fresh Off the Page, we can give a voice and a spotlight to some of our local Asian artists and performers, actors and aspiring writers
Mm. Mm.
and directors, so that they can gain more experience. The writers, we actually pair them up with a mentor, like an established
That's
theatre sort
awesome.
of Asian practitioner already in Auckland. So we're actually mentoring writers and like creating this bubble of people that that we're helping to sort of upskill at the same time. So I'm really proud to be a part of that process and help that process, and put that onto stage and make that visible for people, and to help the community in that aspect. So that's also another thing I'm proud of. But yeah, I guess, yeah, to answer your question, as a more recent thing,
Mm.
Fresh Off the Page is something I'm really proud of, and as a whole, I'm
Yeah.
really still proud of that old video that I did for and her name is Faye
Mm.
who had multiple sclerosis. Yeah.
John, a man with a conscience, a man that really helps and impacts the community. No, I mean, I honestly think that you're doing such a great job. You're like the way you explain yourself and the way you tell these stories, that how willing you are to help and how willing you are to give back to the community. It's such a great thing, and the fact that willing mentor, right, or willing to help the process of helping people, and who wants to learn and grow, right? And I think that's a great thing that you're doing, John. It's
Yeah, no, thank
fantastic.
you. And it's funny because I usually don't explain things that well. Like even as like as I'm talking, I'm like, hey, I'm explaining these things a bit better than I probably normally would. Like for the most part, so I'm happy about that.
Nah, because
But
it's
thank
the
you.
winning
And
smile. It's my winning smile that's helping that.
yeah, that's right. You bring it out of me.
Yeah, and I think
But yeah, no,
that's
thanks. It's
awesome.
good to thanks for that, and that's awesome to hear. And yeah, I do definitely, it's great to be a part of things that I guess do good in some
Yeah, yeah,
way in the world. So that's always something that I can be proud of. At the
yeah.
end of the day, even, years from now, I'll know that I did this and that good deed, and that can be something I'll always be happy of. Yeah. And have gratitude for.
Okay, you kind of talked about like you branching out and doing a little bit of things, but what are your hobbies, or what do you
One of
like
my
doing?
hobbies.
When you're off the clock.
Um, So, I guess aside from a lot of my personal practices are in like writing, in terms of things that I like endeavor to develop like every day. There's my writing. So I'm writing a play. Um, I'm in the middle of some screenplays, and there's always different ideas as well, that are always sort of bubbling in my head, I guess. Other hobbies, I'm actually trying to start pursuing music as well
Awesome.
as an extra thing. I've always wanted to do it. I think at this point in my life, I've always just thought, like, what are the things that I guess on the bucket list that I know that I do want to pursue before I die, or at least give
Mm.
a decent try at. So I play piano and I play guitar, more in a jazz sense. So I'm self-taught in jazz, mostly in piano. That's my main instrument, and I practice. I try to practice daily if I can, um, and that's one of my main big hobbies as well. I also, in terms going back to learning, I since I'm self-taught, I self-learn about music theory and jazz theory and things relative to that. Um, and in terms of like music production software, like I'm learning about that too, since the goal is to put out music of some sort.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I did have plans of trying to release at least something before my birthday this year, and
Ah.
I decided that last year, pretty much this time last year,
Mm.
I decided by this July, which is when my birthday is, I would have something out. But learning, I think I underestimated a bit some of the learning that takes place, especially on the production side of things. And since I've stretched myself so far into different things, it becomes hard to sort of balance everything at times. So the plan is at least early next year to try and
Yeah.
release,
Let us know.
stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, hobbies, music, writing and music, those are my main hobbies.
Yeah.
And aside from that, watching stuff and reading. Reading's a big one that I know I want to keep doing. And it's
Okay.
been varied. There's a lot of, for a while it was fiction. Then nowadays, yeah, for a while it was fiction, and now it's more of a balance and between fiction, non-fiction. And I started reading poetry last year,
Oh
and
wow.
that has been really, really cool. I really like. It was something that I never really considered to start reading.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess there was a part of me that thought it was corny. I guess you could say, because I guess when
Yeah.
you look at it at the outside, and when you look at it from that sort of high school mentality or whatever kind of mentality it was, you kind of come
Right.
into it with your own assumptions. But it was actually, I guess, as someone who's a writer or wants to develop more in that field, it's been hugely beneficial, and especially with these music pursuits, reading poetry has like been beneficial as well. So yeah, reading, and music instruments,
I'm quite
watching
fascinated about
stuff.
I'm quite fascinated about the poetry. I actually might give that a shot because yeah, because like I've been enjoying a bunch of my fiction. Honestly, I have not delved too far away from the fiction stuff. I'm
What about you? What have you are you reading anything at the moment? What have you
uh
been reading?
well, so currently I'm waiting for my favorite Australian author. His name is Matthew Riley. He writes a series, the Jack West
Cool,
Jr.
man.
Yeah, and it's coming out like next week or next week. So I'm fingers crossed for that one. I'm excited for that one. But like in terms of the nonfiction stuff, I never really read much autobiography, save for the stuff that we made us get
Yeah.
from high school, right,
For
or
yeah.
even university. Yeah.
The non-fiction stuff that I read honestly is like a lot of self-help stuff.
Right. Okay.
There's like a lot of yeah, a lot of self-help and like not psychology, but human behavior type
Mm.
of books.
Do they
There's, do
affect
you know
you?
Malcolm Gladwell?
Oh, sorry, sorry. Yeah, no, I don't know that person. Sorry. Yeah.
He's like an author. He's like a I forgot what field he's in, but one of the non-fiction books I'm reading now
Mm.
is written by him, and it's called Outliers, and it's just about how it's a book about like success and the idea of success, and he dives deeper into the lives of successful people and
Right.
sort of unveils some of the assumptions that we have about how they become successful. It's basically a book that um, gives a counter argument to talent and says, you know, some people are like people are talented because they put in X amount of time more. Like, you know, it just it's a book that sort of disillusion that unveils the talent that people
Mm.
assume that like everyone has who are, you know, who's successful. I didn't explain that well, but it's a good book, and I feel like it's quite insightful. So
Mm.
yeah, that's just an example of some of the nonfiction stuff I
Right.
read.
Yeah.
Autobiographies, I read one of my first ones only recently, and that was really cool. Um, but yeah, poetry, I would definitely, yeah,
Okay.
poetry's in terms of poetry for me. I've been trying to read a lot of poetry by people of color, and that's been
Right.
really
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of female poets. There's this one called "They Might Come for Us" by this poet called Fatimah Asghar. She's a she's a Middle Eastern American. I hope I'm remembering that right. Who grew up in foster care in the US, and her poems are really powerful, I feel. So I would
Okay.
recommend that, yeah, if you did want to start
Mm.
reading a bit more poetry.
No, no,
I thought that was
definitely.
really good.
I guess just before we get too far away from it, just going back into the previous books that you were reading, the self help kind. How did this affect you? Did it impact you profoundly? Did you think that they actually help you?
They definitely helped me. Um, I think the reason why I started reading them was because I think a few years ago, I was at a point in my life where I felt not that I think it was more so that I wasn't always present. Like my mind was always wandering too much. I was either, you know, I started becoming interested in like meditation and things like that to sort of just ground
Mm.
my mind and sort of, I guess, anxieties that I had. And
Right.
it's been hugely beneficial. One of the better books that I've read in that field is called Feeling Good, and it's by I forgot what type of doctor, but he's a psychologist of some sort.
Mm.
And it's just a book about self cognitive therapy,
Mm.
sort of techniques that you can use to self therapize and sort of, I guess, defeat anxious thoughts, I guess you
Right.
could say. So books like that have been really beneficial and they have worked for me. Meditation is like a practice I did pick up from that. And that's also been beneficial. I don't do it as often as I think
Mm.
I should or as often as I'd like, but I've only ever benefited from it. But yeah, I do think that they work. I guess it depends on the person,
Mm.
but at least for me,
Yeah.
they've had a good effect. Yeah.
That's great. I guess that was just more my thoughts were because I feel like maybe it's not 50-50, but whenever I read about self help books is
Mm,
I feel like there's two kind of people that replies to it that helps them significantly, and the one that says that maybe their mind is closed to it or to the to the ideas of the book, saying that it's essentially they don't accept the teaching or the approaches that
Right.
the book is trying to get them to open to, and yeah, so that I guess that just gives me an idea that if you're actually open to it, meditation, absolutely never considered meditation and thought about it, I've heard of the word, but never thought of it like seriously. I guess in any
Yeah.
form.
I'd recommend it.
Mm.
It's I had the same thing for me. There's a book. I mean, there's a certain book. It's called The Power of Now.
Mm.
I bought that when I was around 22 or 21. I read the first few pages or the first chapter, and I was like, I don't understand
Right,
this.
right,
I
yeah,
don't like this. Seems like, and then I come back to it years later, and I'm like, this
right.
makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you just
But
weren't
yeah, I
ready
would
at the time.
recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd recommend
Mm.
like you said, meditating. If if you're curious about it, give it a try, and
Mm.
you won't always, you won't. It's not to say that most people don't always pick it up. I guess in the beginning,
Mm.
even for me, it's not like I'm an expert or anything.
Right,
But
right.
keep trying, and once you have that one good like 10-minute session or whatever, and you feel like it's actually working, you'll notice. And so yeah, that's all I can say at least. Yeah.
That's great. I'm just glad that you can explain your experiences with it.
Yeah,
Um.
yeah. I can all yeah, it's I wish I would do it more. I guess there's always that habit of like, it's
Too many
already
things to do.
later at
Yeah.
night and then I'm already sleepy,
Yeah.
or there's always little excuses I sometimes like
Just like the
succumb
gym,
to.
it's too late.
Yeah,
It's too late in the
it's like the
day.
gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some way.
And
It's
it's
like the
probably good.
same.
Yeah, it's probably better for you if you did it anyway, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's like always those thoughts in the back of your head of like, just do the easier thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I
Definitely.
also have that relationship with many things. Yeah.
Um. I feel like you kind of covered this, but I guess I'll ask you anyway, right? But I guess what is your current situation, and what would you want to say to the people listening? Usually, this video goes out on LinkedIn, so it goes out to my
Mm,
professional connection. But yeah, I
cool.
guess what is your situation, and what would you like to tell them? Because usually this series started for like people who wanted to find work, but I guess you're quite comfortable. But if you're open to
All right.
collaboration, if you're open to collaboration or inviting, I don't know, other people to help to join you, or what would you like to tell them?
My situation. Um. Yeah. I mean, I'm an open person. I guess like if you want to reach out and talk about, I guess some of the topics that we just talked
Mm.
about, things like mindfulness or books or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm always open, and I'm always wanting to know about more. So if
Right.
you're listening and you have that knowledge, I guess, and some things that you think you could recommend to me, other books or materials about social science or things like
Mm.
that, anything really, cool biographies, poems, feel free to reach out. I don't know how they would reach out to me through you or
Yeah.
something, but
Well, I guess the question. Yeah,
uh,
we'll get to that in a bit.
and I
Yeah. Sorry.
guess I do work in fields that require collaboration, and so I'm open to collaboration. If you or anyone who ever wants any type of, I don't know, advice,
Mm.
or you might want someone to look at something that you've created, I'm always open to giving feedback and helping people achieve their ideas and the things that are in their head. Um, so I'm always up, I'm always happy to help
Mm.
and, do that. Um,
Are you
yeah,
open
but
to
in terms of my
freelance as
current
well? Oh,
situation, I have a
sorry.
lot of my own sort of projects that I'm doing, so I can't dive too deep
Right.
into like other things with other people too far.
That's okay.
But yeah, and I'm always opening to making new friends and new connections and learning more from other people as well, and conversating with others as well. So I think that's what I would say to other people
Are you
who are
also open
watching.
to
Yeah.
freelancing as well? Like to projects coming in. Is that something that you're also keen in?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, is sort of the context that this question is for sort of like other people that are watching and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that,
So
or
they
yeah. So
need
yeah,
like a
like you
video
said,
approach.
yeah,
Yeah,
open to if other jobs and things like
yeah.
that, or other types of work,
Mm.
or other freelance opportunities. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
So I feel like this question is gonna be quite interesting because I felt like I knew you when we were back in high school, right? But John, did you see the way you are now? Did you see this when you were back in high school? Did you see that this is where your career or life was gonna head towards to?
Um, mm, I think in some way back then I had an idea of some of the lifestyle that I guess you could say I might have, or I knew that I would still be pursuing my interests because I knew at that point that I would be studying what I did study, which is writing, directing for film and theater, and I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I would pursue that as long as I could, I guess. So I already had an idea of that in high school. I already knew that I would stay in this world and pursue it. In terms of the different things that I've managed to involve myself in, like you can't tell the future. I would have never
Yeah,
guessed that. But there are some things that I've done that I,
that helped.
that I know that my past self would be like, oh, that's really cool. And I also know that there are some things that I haven't done yet that my past self would be like, oh, I thought you'd already have done that
Yeah.
now. So it's always a mixed bag. Um, but then again, it hasn't even been that far, I guess, from there's been some time, but there's still more time between now and high school. So
Mm.
there's always more time to develop. But the, I think I knew that I would go in this direction, but I didn't know what that path, I didn't know what would be exactly in that path. I just knew that that arrow was pointing,
Mm.
like this way.
That's
I
great
just
that you had
didn't
a
know,
general
but
idea. Yeah.
at that time, I just that path just had a shadow
Mm.
on it, but I just didn't light up till now. So I'm still going to be following that arrow, and hopefully things are good.
Mm.
um, but yeah, I did have an idea of some sort. Yeah.
What would have been your advice to your younger self? If you were pursuing this field now, or to other people who's climbing up and trying to follow your lead, right? What would you tell them?
Um, I think if there's one big thing is I wish that I was a bit more disciplined when I was younger. I feel like because I guess going back to some of the things I do, a lot of it requires to be self-driven a little bit
Right.
because you actually are the one you're responsible for yourself, and ultimately if the success in some way relies on your decisions, what you go for and what you don't go for and what you have the courage to do and not do. Sometimes sometimes those decisions have big results, so I think there have been times where I've like turned down things because I've been too nervous that
Right.
I couldn't do it. So so things like that. And there have been times when I didn't go to something that ultimately I knew deep down inside could have been beneficial to me.
Yeah.
So aside from that, and beside anything to do with courage, going back to discipline, for me with writing, like years back, I was like, I knew that I wanted to identify as a writer. Well, at least I knew that I wanted to pursue it. But even at that point, I didn't have a habit of writing. I
Right.
knew that it was something that I wanted to develop, but I didn't have a habit of doing it. I do now.
Yeah.
But in terms of discipline, if you have something that you want to develop and polish and grow in,
Let's
like
do
make the
it.
habit
Yeah.
of doing it
Yeah.
as
Just
a
do it.
and doing that every day if you can, and learning more about it.
Mm.
So discipline. I wish that I had more discipline,
Mm.
and I wish that I hadn't doubted myself as much, or
Yeah.
had been maybe a bit less anxious about certain things. Those would probably be the biggest advice that I'd give. And if opportunity comes, um, you know, don't be. Sometimes I have when opportunity comes. Sometimes I feel a bit fearful.
Yeah.
Don't know why. I think again it's that same idea of like maybe you won't be good at it.
Oh
So
yeah.
again, to my younger self, I guess, or advice to people, don't doubt yourself and just don't skewer that belief. Try and talk yourself up. I guess.
I
Yeah.
really that's great advice. I really like it. I really appreciate it. I think one thing I can say to that is from personal experience, you can't predict the future. You can't
Mm,
connect the dots saying that this thing will be the one that's important, the one that's going to help in the future. But when you look back, there's going to be key points that when you look at it, that's an important moment in my life, and I'm glad that I did that. And the only way that happens is if you, like you said, go to events, don't doubt yourself, and just say yes to opportunities, to
yeah.
new
Say it's
adventure.
opportunity.
Yeah,
That's a big one. Yeah.
yeah, it's fantastic, John. Um, okay, John. Where can we find you? Do you have a website? What's the
Yeah,
best way to reach
so
out to
visit
you?
Proudly Asian Theatre.
Mm.
We are on Instagram, Facebook. We have a website. It's a new website that we
Awesome.
developed this year. You can see the productions that we've worked on. You can see the photos from Fresh Off the Page and,
Mm.
all the other things. I have my photography page. So that's John Rata Photography on Facebook and
Mm.
on Instagram.
Yeah,
I have a website, but that's a bit out of date. If you want to see more of the in date stuff, just go to Instagram.
mm.
So that's John Rata Photography. Um, and if you ever want a video made, there's One Day Video, which is the company that I've been recently working for. But yeah, visit Proudly Asian
Mm.
Theatre, and yeah, that's where people can find me.
That's awesome, John. We'll make sure to put all the links and the connections up here. But yeah, no, John. Thank you very much for coming on. I am absolutely stoked and grateful that you had a chance to explain and talk about your experience and the stuff that you're working on. Absolutely fantastic. It's stuff that I absolutely love listening. I love hearing. I love it when people talk about the experience and they're doing great things.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks, man. It's been an awesome conversation. Thanks for having me on and, talk to me about these things. I'm sorry if I rambled every now and
That's
then.
okay.
But yeah, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate the time and thanks for reaching out and happy to help.